Welcome back to Around the Block with GoodBlock. I'm CJ Welters, head of product at GoodBlock, and today we have Erika Elder, our COO and chair of the Telos Foundation Guardians, formerly known as the Telos Foundation Board, Douglas Horn, GoodBlock CEO, and of course the architect and white paper author of the Telos Network. Today we get to talk with Giudici, CEO of the Telos Foundation and owner of block producer Infinity Block. We're going to chat about 2022, how it's gone so far, and hear about the foundation's ideas and strategies going into 2023. So before we get started, remember to like this video, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you know when we drop more content like this. Now let's invite Justin to talk with us about what he's up to and where he sees the future of Telos.
Justin!
Hey guys, great to be here. It's a pleasure.
Hi, Justin. Thanks for joining us. Hey, before we really dive into Telos stuff, who wants to talk about what's going on with LBRY?
Oh my gosh. This is pretty crazy. So obviously everyone here is probably privy to this, but LBRY Inc. lost a judgment today or yesterday, today I suppose, against the SEC, claiming to be an unregistered security. So the SEC basically won, and LBRY is on the hook now because they did an ICO and raised a bunch of funds. They claimed themselves as a utility token, but the SEC decided that that was not the case.
Yeah, and the buzz on Twitter is people are freaking out. They're like, this means every token in the US is a not registered security, and people are scared.
Well, maybe they should be. This would not touch Telos, though. Really interesting. So looking at the reasons why, first thing is there was a US company, LBRY Inc., LBRY Inc., right, in New Hampshire or something. So there's a company there. So for something to be a security, you really have to have some organization that's in control that is, has some form of entity or some form of, partnership. But Telos doesn't have that. We have a number of entities that is, in constant flux, and nobody is running it. Justin is the CEO of the Telos Foundation, but he's not the CEO of Telos. There is no CEO of Telos. So that's the first thing, that it doesn't even exist, right? And then the second thing is they sold tokens, right? So it's really hard to say that you're selling tokens that you're not, and somebody is in the center of it that is not creating a security, right? What the judge said was that, okay, sure, some people might have bought it for the utility value, but the vast majority of people bought it because they thought it was going to appreciate, which LBRY said. They both suggested and then apparently outright said that it was going to appreciate. So I know for myself and Justin and most people, we are very clear with people that, we hope it appreciates, but we can't promise that. And people are buying into the Telos community, right? And they may think it is, but that's not coming from any of us who are block producers and whatnot. We're always very careful. I know you're always very careful about that, Justin.
Yeah, I guess you have to be. I mean, I think the metaphor I always use for Telos is that we're sort of like a community or a suburb, in that you have these different entities that help to make the suburb, really nice, and people want to live there. People want to bring their business into our suburb. And, at the end of the day, the people come together, they create businesses, they create relationships, they create a community, and then as one, they sort of decide if there's value there, or, really it's based on the utility of that little microcosm, essentially. So exactly like a suburb, the council or the fire department or the police department, they don't push on their own, any pricing of that suburb, but generally they want to make the community a nice community, right, that everyone wants to live in. And, if businesses grow and then price goes up, then that happens through great communities, essentially. And we're sort of like a decentralized version of that.
I like that analogy. It's good.
I think about the same thing. Except I use like a small country where we're like a each blockchain community is sort of its own nation, even though we all live in different places. Together we govern ourselves and build economies and build up our infrastructure and build up our industry, right? And we try and facilitate that very much like you said, like the town council would of a suburb. But the functional points are there's no company, there's no Telos company that, not for the blockchain anyway. We didn't offer any ICO or ICO like sale of tokens. In multiple places, there are these things that are required for something to be a security that we didn't do. And it's not like, and you would need all of them, right? And there are many that we didn't do at all. So I think it'd be very hard to sort of pierce the veil of decentralization that Telos has worked so hard on. And it's cost us a lot, like the difference between what we had to put in to make this happen and grow as a decentralized community is very different from what the ones who just raised a bunch of money did. I mean, you can consider that's a shortcut, and we took the proper path. So
I think it's really important to kind of acknowledge that about Telos, because for a long time, it's been 4 years since we started doing it, and then almost 4 years since we actually did the launch, and everyone on this call and so many other people that are still involved in Telos are still involved. And I think it really speaks to that commitment to the network and to what we're building. It's not something that's like short-term, get rich quick. This is like, we're trying to ensure resiliency to the network and longevity and bringing real world solutions to real problems through that thoughtful implementation of Web3. And I think that is a key difference in like just how we're operating. We don't all agree on how to do all of this stuff, but we definitely have people that have made commitments here and are working really hard at it. And I think that is a big difference from what you see out there.
I think anybody who was to look behind the curtain would see not like collusion and everybody like coming together. They would see a lot of very strong differences of opinion about what our future is, what we should be doing. Almost all, it almost never peaks out, which is the mark of a good organization. But constantly, Justin and we agree on a lot, but there's also a few things that we deeply disagree on. Same thing with Jesse. Same thing with just a number of people in the community that are working on this. It is truly, a wide range of opinions on how to move forward. And I'm really glad that to most people that never appears, but it absolutely exists. I think, Justin, you can maybe attest to that as well.
There is no two people on the network that really agree on anything or everything, rather. There's been times where I've totally disagreed with every individual at the foundation, every individual within block producers, everywhere. So yeah, everyone's very independent of thought, and they all have their own tokens and they vote with them. And sometimes, well, more often than not, we all align essentially. But there's a lot of times where there's not alignment, but we get that.
But I also think this lack of alignment is important, right? If we don't have a diverse set of views, then we're not going to get as far as if we just have a few people who all think the exact same way, right? Like imagine all the things you miss by having just an only aligned group of people in that way, right? That the more diverse opinions we have, I think the better that we'll eventually succeed as a blockchain, just by nature of having more options of directions to go when we need to pivot or when we need to, solve a problem.
No two people agree on every point, right? I do not feel like there's any kind of 2-party or 3-party or any kind of party system, right? There's not like side 1 and side 2. There's like just we all have different opinions and have to pull them together. It's not really factionalized in the way that most political processes are. right? We just have a lot of opinions. We feel them very strongly. And, in the end, this is only talking about what we eventually present to the community, right? Then the community decides. We don't decide any of this stuff. We make a decision about what we're going to present, and then we take user feedback, and then there's an actual presentation that a ballot to vote on, right? So this is a very robust decision-making process. And I frankly, I'm really proud of it. It's amazing that it works. Telos is a miracle, and I don't think it could ever work again. And I can't believe sometimes that it got through its phase. And we've certainly suffered all the drawbacks of not doing an ICO and not having a centralized organization, because not only with no ICO is you don't have the money, but without a centralized organization, you don't have that like straight and narrow hierarchical decision-making process, which is faster than decentralization in almost all cases. So now we should get the benefits of having done it that way, of having played by, all the rules that could be expected.
Let's talk about Telos in 2022. Justin, talk to us. Give us some highlights of Telos as a network. I don't know. What do you want to start with? Governance? You want to talk about what we've done with what's gone on in the governance world of Telos in 2022? People have short memories, and a lot of things have happened this year. And I just want you to just give us some of those highlights, and so people remember, because I think there's a lot that's gone on, and it's exciting.
No, I've got a short memory as well, so I'm sure I'm going to leave a lot of things off the list. If we start with, governance. Probably one of the most pivotal things that we've achieved as a community has probably been the TED-P3 program, Telos Economic Development Plan. Sorry, we've come together essentially to vote in a liquidity plan for the network to incentivize liquidity to come to the network. We've also voted for more grant funding via Telos Ignite, and a bunch of other different changes. And they were all critical changes that we couldn't make as a centralized organization, whether it be the TF or TCD or the BPs alone. This had to be a collaboration with the community and a vote with the community. And we came together and decided on that. And I think it's put us on a really solid path to bringing in new DeFi apps, new liquidity, and also just a growth path for more apps generally to come to the ecosystem. So I think that's been really huge.
Yeah, big. And okay, let's go back to the very beginning of 2022, because there was a big governance thing that happened. I think the election actually started at the end of 2021, and that was the first election for Telos Foundation, or the Telos Guardians. So there was some big transitions that happened as a result of that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I don't think it was our first election, but I would say it
felt
like our first election
in a long time.
It was the first in a long time, and it was the first with like a very solid base of like network effects and a much larger community at that point. So it was a bigger deal, and it was very competitive for the positions on what's become the Guardians board, which is an advisory board to the foundation. It was the first time it was super, super competitive, which is fantastic. And I think it just put us on a very professional footing. Having that competitiveness and getting the likes of Erika and other board members to be representing us. And since we've had the establishment of the new board, we've had some great advice from all the new faces that we've had. Chris Barnes is a good example. He's brought, a level of professionalism that we didn't have. We've got a lot of some of the faces that we've had previously, but we had a lot of new faces as well. And that combination of new and old has been really fantastic.
It was the first election of the TF board voted by everyone in the community, or votable by everyone in the community. Previously, there had been something called the TF token, and it was given to early contributors and they were the only ones who had the ability to vote, which was fine at the very beginning. But now that we have a really strong group and a strong community, we needed to change that over. So that required changes in the smart contracts running Telos Decide, and that also, and we at GoodBlock worked on Decide Voter to make that as easy as possible for people. So yeah, there was a lot to do. Gosh, it doesn't seem, wow, can't believe it's a year ago. I also can't believe that Telos EVM went live a year ago.
Yeah, what kind of growth have we seen in the EVM this year?
Or this week.
It's been great.
This week.
This month have been great.
I mean, it's kind of funny. We launched the EVM. We've had a steady flow of adoption, but in the last week, like Douglas is saying, it's sort of just exploded because of Telos Fuel started kicking in. We've got people, doing farming on ApeSwap, but we've got things like Robinos, which are coming out. I guess there's just been enough time at this point that a lot of apps are just starting to fly in, and then we've got these liquidity programs, and everything's just coming to a mass, I guess. But we've had like a steady flow of around 50 applications over the year, but we're just really starting to hit our straps now, I feel. I think the EVM itself has been put through, testing and just a lot of the little small kinks have been ironed out, and it's really at a state of almost perfection at this point.
We are so close. When 1.5, when EVM 1.5 launches, it is going to have so many advances, and all the ones. So we were going to do 1.5 as an intermediary thing, and then 2.0, and all the good stuff was originally in 2.0, and we kept bringing more and more good stuff from 2.0 for users into 1.5, and now it's like 1.5 is going to have all these amazing things. We're so close. We're just waiting on updating different RPC nodes and history nodes. It takes a while, and also the Leap 3.1 software. So there's a lot updating at once, but you're going to see a lot of really cool, improvements. So I'm super excited about it. It's not super sexy on a roadmap, but constantly updating your core software is very important. And I would say if you don't see that going on a roadmap, then that's way more cause for concern for me than seeing than not seeing some new, gee whiz thing. Right.
Sure. It's just like the same reason the Antelope coalition was formed, right?
Yep.
So, actually that was this year too. Can we discuss that a little bit and how that's gone so far?
Yeah. We were starting to get concerned, I think, last year when Block 1 seemed to just totally leave essentially the community because, there was no code getting upgraded whatsoever on EOS.io, which is our previous base software. So yeah, it was monumental, I think, for us to come together as a community with other communities like WAX, like EOS, like UX Network, and say we need to do something about this. We need to take over the code base. We need to continue its iteration and improvement, so that we can have a long existence as communities and a greater Web3 ecosystem. So yeah, it's just tremendously critical that we did come together because we would have been sort of stuffed otherwise. Luckily, our technology core is so far ahead of a lot of other blockchains that we could probably stop for 2-3 years and still be at break even with a lot of them.
We could stop for 2 years.
We want
to 2 years, and
we did a little bit.
And development did stop for 2 years. So. We were at risk, I thought, of losing that technological advantage that we had. And I think it just shows that, anything that's going its own way and it's its own single chain and not part of some kind of bigger family of chains with interaction and inter-blockchain communication and large liquidity between them. Anything that doesn't have that is not going to make it to the next, is going to get voted off the island pretty quick by the crypto community, right? That's just something you have to do. That's the next thing we have to do. So thank goodness we're doing it. We had a show here on Around the Block with people from each of the 4 Antelope chains, and I thought that was one of the greatest. We're setting up another one to talk about IBC really soon. But what I thought was really cool about that is we mentioned that a year prior to that, none of us really even knew each other or talked. And if we did, it was probably, light shit talking of the other and flexing our own. And now it's a totally different story. And you could, you can't watch that thing and not think that it's genuine, because none of us, are good actors at all, let alone good enough to, to sort of fake the camaraderie that's just a product of what we've all built. And, Justin, you were there for Telos. Jesse was there for Telos. Kirsten was there. We've been doing a lot of work, and we are going to get a lot of benefits out of that, I think. What do you think about that, Justin?
I would go back to your metaphor earlier of countries, and if our network is a country, then do you want to be that country that is on its own, like North Korea, doesn't trade with anyone, you can't easily fly there, there's no relationship with the other countries,
or do you want trade agreements and yeah,
you want trade agreements, exactly, you want that connectivity.
I often
with
talk
each other.
about that. I often talk about Antelope being NATO and not the EU. So NATO, you have all those advantages, right? You have easy travel between NATO countries and whatnot, but they don't share the same exact same economic base, right? So they have a lot in common, but they also have they each have their own economies, and they all enrich themselves by trading and interacting with the others. And, you can have dual citizenship. You could have, that's where it breaks down, right? Because usually you can only be a citizen of one country, but here, you can be part of every country if you that you want to engage with.
We don't have a lot of time left, but I want to hear from you, Justin, about the Telos Foundation highlights for 2022. And maybe a little bit of what's coming in 2023. I know that the foundation was very busy in 2022. So give us the...
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all the events that we've been able to attend every month has been fantastic. Obviously, Consensus being our biggest event. We did Decentral as well in Austin. We did Hack Boston at Harvard University. That was awesome. So much talent at Harvard, MIT, Northeastern, and some of these universities that were attending that hackathon. We had our, what was that hackathon? Mm-hmm. The Spark Hackathon, which actually CLUIS came out of that, which is, one of our most exciting apps, won that hackathon. We had the Mission NFT hackathon. So we've been very heavy on events and hackathons this year, which has been amazing. We've really extended the visibility of Telos. I always talk about a year and a half ago, I would go to a conference, I'd ask people, have you heard of Telos before? And 1 in 10, maybe 2 in 10 would actually have heard of us. And now I go to a conference and I ask, have you heard of Telos? And we get 6 or 7 out of 10 who have heard of us. So we're really, I know that's a subjective metric, but I think we're really starting to get out there, which is fantastic. We've had a steady flow of Ignite grants, which is awesome. We've just really professionalized. TF and TCD are obviously separate, but to me, what the TCD have done in improving and the amount of deliverables that they're outputting now has been a highlight for us, because we get to talk about it as the, PR and marketing and BD arm. So that's definitely a highlight for us as well. Those are some of my highlights. Definitely Telos Fuel kicking into gear is another big thing that really is going to take us to the end of 2022 and into next year. So we're very, very excited.
Yeah, what happened? Another thing that happened at the beginning of the year is we got Kirsten Worth to step in as the program manager for TCD. And I had been doing that in sort of an unofficial role very badly because since the beginning, constantly trying to get somebody in. We would get people in, no one would work out. Kirsten is perfect at it. He's so great, and everyone has worked on it, but just getting him in that role has really allowed the TCD to thrive. In the similar way to how the Telos Foundation did, 6 or 8 months earlier. So I think it's great. There's so many contributions, right? If we look at the TED P3, and people may not know this, but Sukesh Tedla, he did this massive, financial modeling of what had happened on other chains when they took this approach and increased their TVL, right? And then applied it to Telos, and it was very persuasive to me. It's like, wow, that could really help people out. If that modeling is true, we should present that to the community and see if they want to do that. And seems to be going well.
That's awesome. Thanks. And what about any strategies you can share with us coming for 2023, Justin?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I kind of hate it a little bit when people ask so far ahead, because I feel like every month in blockchain is like a year.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why I'm like forgetting things that are from January, because it just feels like 6 years ago. But I would say for 2023, I think we're going to be continuing a lot of the things that we've established, like, attending lots of events, hackathons. We want to continue doing at least one a quarter. There's tweaks that we want to make to these programs. Like, obviously, we want to attend maybe more events, make sure we have a booth at every event. And that's going to require, getting more staff potentially, because we found that it's very draining to attend these events, especially for staff who are, running operations. So that's with events and hackathons, the same deal. We've started to partner as opposed to always holding our own hackathons. We'll probably continue to do that, do some partnering, also do some of our own, and hopefully we'll be able to grow our team so we can do more of those. BD will continue doing what we're doing. We'll hopefully lift our game on how many grants we can give out, but that depends on the markets. We'll see how we go. But generally, we want to continue all the things that we've started. We just want to do them better and continue to iterate and continue to bring more people in to help us, grow this network.
And we've even this year recently dipped our toe into politics and lobbying and trying to be part of this discussion of what's going forward. And Justin, you and Erika both went out to Washington, D.C. You want to talk about that event? Because I thought that was a pretty great kickoff for making sure that our needs are, trying to be heard and addressed in the U.S. government at this time.
Definitely. Eric, do you want to fill this so I can?
Sure. I can talk on it a little bit. So in case anybody is not aware, a couple months ago, we had a works proposal that was passed that bought us a seat basically at the table in a company called Lobby3, or a foundation. It's part of the Humanity Forward project that's run by Andrew Yang. And so he was at the event there. He was really excited to meet us all. Loved that, we were kind of the first democratically chosen membership. So that was kind of fun to get to talk about. In general, everybody there seemed really interested to hear about Telos and what kinds of things we're already doing. And it was interesting to hear a bit about, where we think that governance and legislation are going in the U.S., towards or against crypto. So we've seen a little bit of that today, and hopefully having a seat at the table will change the direction of that narrative a little bit.
If you don't have a seat at the table, you're probably the meal. So
you're probably library.
Let's hope not. Ouch, library. So, Justin, tell us, where should people find you on the internet, the World Wide Webs, the all the things?
Yeah, you can find me in the Telos community channel. I'm like there pretty much every day, 18 hours a day. But also on Twitter, _Juddy. It's JUDII. And LinkedIn. Yeah,
Great.
you can also find me via telos.net.
Great, and we'll stick some links
And
down
people
below.
should vote for Infinity Block, right? If they like your vision as a BP, should make sure you're up there, keep you in the top 21.
Definitely vote.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Justin. It's been great to have you and hear about the Telos Foundation and what you guys are up to.
Thanks for having me, guys. I've been waiting to get the invite for this show, and no, I'm just kidding. But it's good to finally have our time meet up and get on the show to talk to everyone.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, Justin.
Yeah.
Pleasure, guys.
All right. Now it's time for Moss's Market Minute. Time for Nathaniel to give us this week's news in 60 seconds. This is not financial advice.
Binance is currently down 3% at 341. This weekend, Binance's CEO Changping Zhao, CZ, tweeted that he was going to short a significant number of FTX's FTT tokens worth $5.8 billion. The FTX token is currently down 14% this month at $22. At DeFi Sniper, later showed an Ethersan address moving 23 million FTT tokens worth $583 million to a Binance exchange wallet later. Alameda's CEO Carolyn Edison offered to buy Binance's FTT token holdings at $22. CZ's announcement comes after a leaked balance sheet revealed Alameda has $14 billion in assets and $8 billion in liabilities and unidentified loans. Recently mismanaged 3 Errors Capital tweeted that they will now be managing the Alameda FTX balance sheet and their client funds. Personally, I feel CZ is showing transparency even when he doesn't need to. It's very diplomatic, he's trying not to cause FUD, but also sell it when you see it coming. Una.
And that's 60 seconds.
Up next, we're talking about block stuff. Yes, crypto BS. So what do we got today, Douglas?
Oh, I think this has been an excellent week for stuff. We already talked a little bit about LBRY, that just sort of like emerged just as we were getting ready to launch. We could do any amount of crypto block stuff about Twitter and Elon Musk, but it's just that would go forever. So let's look at this story where Bitcoin is now more stable, has less volatility than the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, right? People are always like, well, it's not a good price store of value because the price is so volatile. It goes up and down. It's like, well, yeah, but not compared to the stock market.
But I also think that probably we could argue Telos has a lot less volatility even than that.
It's true.
We do. I think we do. It's always been low volatility, but that's kind of funny. Things are going crazy in other markets, and now inflation and all these things that we've known about for a while looks like they're finally starting to have an impact.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a crazy story.
And then what else do we have? I heard that Google became a Solana validator.
They have announced that they're going to be bringing their node to Solana beginning in 2023.
Yeah, and people were like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? And for me, it's like, well, it may mean the exact same thing that it meant when Google Cloud announced that they were going to become an EOS block producer 2 years ago, right? Almost to the month, right? Yeah, October 6th.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah. And the outcome of that is nothing really happened. They did deploy things. I don't think it's ever got voted into any big position. It's kind of well known amongst the BPs who look at tech and stuff that it's kind of a joke. It's like, it's not what any of us would brag about, like their implementation from literally the biggest internet infrastructure company in the world.
They don't have the fastest node?
They do not.
They don't
Because
have
they're
the
running
best?
Rainbow Cloud. So it's not bare metal. I don't know. It just didn't lead to anything, and I think that's part of their blockchain strategy, right? So they have a blockchain division that has people who work on it. Somebody's in charge, and so they have to do these things from time to time. I really, don't see what will come of that, but I could be wrong. But
Do you think that maybe if Solana is bringing them in and considering them something along akin more to like a strategic partner, they'll get more of a payout and be more likely to actually get a block producer position? Like, does Solana have that kind of centralization where they can decide that their BP, they're going to be a paid BP?
Solana definitely has that kind of centralization. Because it can be paused, right? So, but also it's not, block producers on Solana aren't quite the same, right? There's a lot of validating nodes. It's not like the infrastructure of Telos where you have to have these really high power computers. You do actually, it actually does take a lot to be a leading validator on Solana. It takes a lot of hardware and things like that. But we'll see. We'll see what they do. I don't think Google cares about the income. So I think they just want to be able to say, hey, we've got this sort of like push button thing that you can launch a Solana node on our infrastructure, even if no one ever does it. I don't think that there were very many people taking up the EOS.io infrastructure on Google back when B1 made that deal with them. It's just like people don't really care. So, but if that's your job, if you're the manager of blockchain at Google, you gotta put some announcement out every couple of years.
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect. It's perfect for BS. There's all manner of BS out there this week, and this is our take on it this week. So
yeah. Well, this has been a great episode.
Yeah, that brings us to the end of today's episode.
Aw.
I know. But if you want to learn more about Web3 world and whatever's going on with GoodBlock and around the block with our friends and neighbors, check out our podcast wherever you listen to yours. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button. And we will see you guys next time.
Thanks, everybody, for coming by.